U.S. troops guarding nuclear weapons were taking LSD, records show. Washington, one airman said he felt paranoia. Another marveled at the vibrant colors. A third admitted, "I absolutely just loved altering my mind." Meet service members entrusted with guarding nuclear missiles that are among the most powerful in America's arsenal. Air Force records obtained by the Associated Press show they bought, distributed and used the hallucinogen LSD and other mind-altering illegal drugs as part of a ring that operated undetected for months on a highly secure military base in Wyoming. After investigators closed in, one airman deserted to Mexico. "Although this sounds like something from a movie, it isn't," said Captain Charles Grimsley, the lead prosecutor of one of several courts-martial. A slip-up on social media by one airman enabled investigators to crack the drug ring at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in March 2016, details of which are reported here for the first time. 14 airmen were disciplined. 6 of them were convicted in courts-martial of LSD use or distribution or both. None of the airmen was accused of using drugs on duty. Yet it's another blow to the reputation of the Air Force's nuclear missile corps, which is capable of unleashing hell in the form of Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. The Corps has struggled at times with misbehavior, mismanagement and low morale. Although seen by some as a backwater of the U.S. military, the missile force has returned to the spotlight as President Donald Trump has called for strengthening U.S. nuclear firepower and exchanged threats last year with North Korea. The administration's nuclear strategy calls for hundreds of billions of dollars in new spending in coming decades. The service members accused of involvement in the LSD ring were from the 90th Missile Wing, which operates one-third of the 400 Minuteman III missiles that stand on alert 24/7 in underground silos scattered across the northern Great Plains. Documents obtained by the app over the past 2 years through the Freedom of Information Act tell a sordid tale of off-duty use of LSD, cocaine and other drugs in 2015 and 2016 by airmen who were supposed to be held to strict behavioral standards because of their role in securing the weapons. It's another black eye for the Air Force, for the ICBM force in particular, says Stephen Schwartz, an independent consultant and nuclear expert. In response to app inquiries, an Air Force spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Rael Orland, said the drug activity took place during off-duty hours. There are multiple checks to ensure airmen who report for duty are not under the influence of alcohol or drugs and are able to execute the mission safely, securely and effectively, he said. Airman First Class Damian Ashworth was among those who used LSD supplied by colleagues with connections to civilian drug dealers. "I felt paranoia, panic for hours after taking a hit of acid," Ashworth said under oath at his court-martial. He confessed to using LSD 3 times while off-duty. The first time, in the summer of 2015, shook him up. "I didn't know if I was going to die that night or not," he said as a witness at another airman's drug trial. Recalling another episode with LSD, he said it felt almost as if I was going to have like a heart attack or a heat stroke. Airman Basic Kai Les Morrison acknowledged at his court-martial that under the influence of LSD he could not have responded if recalled to duty in a nuclear security emergency. More, LSD is making a comeback. More, misbehavior by top officials and officers is on the decline, Pentagon leaders say in prosecuting the cases at F.E. Warren. The Air Force asserted that LSD users can experience profound effects from even small amounts. It said common psychological effects include paranoia, fear and panic, unwanted and overwhelming feelings, unwanted life-changing spiritual experiences, and flashbacks. It's unclear how long before being on duty any of the airmen had taken LSD, which stands for lysergic acid diethylamide. The drug became popularized as acid in the 1960s, and views since then have been widely split on its mental health risks. Although illegal in the U.S., it had been showing up so infrequently in drug tests across the military that in December 2006 the Pentagon eliminated LSD screening from standard drug testing procedures. An internal Pentagon memo at the time said that over the previous 3 years only 4 positive specimens had been identified in 2.1 million specimens screened for LSD. Yet Air Force investigators found those implicated in the F.E. Warren drug ring used LSD on base and off, at least twice at outdoor gatherings. Some also snorted cocaine and used ecstasy. Civilians joined them in the LSD use, including some who had recently left Air Force service, according to 2 officials with knowledge of the investigation. The Air Force declined to discuss this. More, Air Force investigators have interviewed 100 people since former airman killed 26 in Texas. More, airman gets prison for sexually abusing girl. 15 Airman First Class Nicholas A. Harris, said to be the leader of the drug ring, testified that he had no trouble getting LSD and other drugs from civilian sources. He pleaded guilty to using and distributing LSD and using ecstasy, cocaine and marijuana. He acknowledged using LSD 8 times and distributing LSD multiple times to fellow airmen at parties in Denver and other locations from spring 2015 to early 2016. "I absolutely just loved altering my mind," he told the military judge, blaming his decisions to use hallucinogens and other drugs on his addictive personality. Other airmen testified that it was easy to obtain LSD in a liquid form spread on small tabs of perforated white paper. Airmen ingested at least 1 tab by placing it on their tongue. In one episode summarized by a military judge at Harris Court-Martial, he and other airmen watched YouTube videos and then went longboarding on the streets of Denver while high on LSD. Harris was sentenced to 12 months in jail and other penalties, but under a pretrial agreement he avoided a punitive discharge. The lead prosecutor in that case, Air Force Captain C. Rhodes Berry, had argued Harris should be locked up for 42 months, including 9 months for the aggravating circumstance of undercutting public trust by using hallucinogens and other drugs on a nuclear weapons base. "I cannot think of anything more aggravating than being the ringleader of a drug ring on F.E. Warren Air Force Base," Berry said at the courts-martial. In all, the app obtained transcripts of 7 courts-martial proceedings, plus related documents. They provide vivid descriptions of LSD trips. "I'm dying." One airman is quoted as exclaiming, followed by "When is this going to end?" During a bad trip on LSD in February 2016 at Kurt Goody State Park, about 20 miles, 32 kilometers, west of Cheyenne, where F.E. Warren is located. A portion of that episode was video recorded by one member of the group. A transcript of the audio was included in court records. Others said they enjoyed the drug. "Minutes felt like hours, colors seemed more vibrant and clear," Morrison testified. "In general, I felt more alive." He said he had used LSD in high school, which could have disqualified him from Air Force service. He said that his recruiter told him he should lie about it and that lying about prior drug use was normal in the Air Force. At his court-martial, Morrison acknowledged distributing LSD on the missile base in February 2016. A month later, when summoned for questioning by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Morrison confessed and became an informant for the agency, an arrangement the Air Force said yielded legally admissible evidence against 10 other airmen. Under a pretrial agreement, he agreed to testify against other airmen and avoided a punitive discharge. He was sentenced to 5 months confinement, 15 days of hard labor and loss of $5,200 in pay. Most of the airmen involved were members of 2 related security units at F.E. Warren, the 790th Missile Security Forces Squadron and the 90th Security Forces Squadron. Together, they are responsible for the security and defense of the nuclear weapons there as well as the missile complex. By coincidence, the No. 2 Pentagon official at the time, Robert Work, visited F.E. Warren 1 month before the drug investigation became public. Accompanied by an app reporter, he watched as airmen of the 790th Missile Security Forces Squadron, whose members at the time included Harris, the accused leader of the drug ring, demonstrated how they would force their way into and regain control of a captured missile silo. Work, the Deputy Defense Secretary, was there to assess progress in fixing problems in the ICBM force identified by then Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, who ordered an investigation after the app reported on personnel, resource, training and leadership problems in 2013-14. Those problems included the firing of the general in charge of the entire ICBM force for inappropriate behavior the Air Force said was linked to alcohol abuse. A month later the AP revealed that an unpublished study prepared for the Air Force found burnout among nuclear missile launch officers and evidence of broader behavioral problems, including sexual assaults and domestic violence. Air Force officials say the force has since rebounded. In an interview, Work said he was not aware during his visit that anything was amiss. Nor was he briefed later on the investigation. He said he wouldn't have expected to be briefed unless the Air Force found that LSD or other illegal drugs were a systemic problem for the nuclear force, beyond the security forces group at F.E. Warren. Work said he had never heard of LSD use anywhere in the nuclear workforce. For the inexperienced members of the drug ring, Harris, the ringleader, had set out several rules for LSD use at a gathering of several airmen in a Cheyenne apartment in late 2015 that was recorded on video. Rule number 1, no social media at all. He added, no bad trips. Everybody's happy right now. Let's keep it that way. But social media proved their undoing. In March 2016, one member posted a Snapchat video of himself smoking marijuana, setting Air Force investigators on their trail. As the investigators closed in, one of the accused, Airman First Class Devine R. Haggerty, grabbed a backpack and cash, text-messaged his mother that he loved her, turned off his cell phone and fled to Mexico. I started panicking, he told a military judge